The moment her hand made contact with the Alpha King's beast, her fate should have been sealed. It was a truth every soldier was aware of, and every noble took for granted. The fallen Alpha King himself had closed his eyes, bracing for the inevitable, for it was unheard of for anyone to survive such a bold and reckless act. The creature stood tall on the battlefield, its body drenched in the blood of countless victims. Its piercing golden eyes seemed to hold a deep wisdom, having witnessed the surrender of kings and the bravery of warriors. Many had dared to approach it, only to be torn apart by its fierce claws. Even its master had never mustered the courage to clean the blood from its fur after a battle, a testament to the beast's unyielding ferocity. Its presence was a reminder of the devastation it had unleashed, and the blood that stained its fur was a grim symbol of its unrelenting power. A servant, unarmed and unarmored, walked calmly towards the battlefield, carrying only a bucket of water. She didn't have a sword to fight with, or any title that would make her stand out. But what she did have was a quiet and compassionate look on her face, which seemed out of place in a scene filled with death and destruction. It was a look that didn't make sense in the midst of all that chaos, but it was there, a beacon of calm in a sea of violence. The beast stared at her. One more step and everyone expected another body to fall. Instead, the impossible happened. The monster slowly lowered its head. It closed its eyes and allowed her trembling hands to wash away the blood that had remained untouched for generations. Everyone was left stunned, unsure of what they had just seen. The soldiers, the nobles, even the powerful Alpha King, none of them could make sense of it. That blood was never supposed to be cleaned up, it was waiting for someone, the one person the beast had been searching for all this time. And the moment she came into contact with it, a long-hidden secret of the kingdom was unleashed, changing everything. The battlefield had forgotten how to breathe. The air was thick with smoke, like spirits wandering the barren land, seeking names that had been lost to time. Tattered flags were strewn about, hidden beneath the splintered remains of shields. Swords lay still, beside hands that would never again grasp them. The echoes of triumph had long since disappeared, leaving only an unsettling silence. The earth was broken, a testament to the devastation that had ravaged the land. The memories of what had transpired lingered, a haunting reminder of the transience of glory and the finality of defeat. Only silence remained, heavy, endless, watching. In the heart of that silence, a massive creature stood still, its presence so intimidating that even death itself seemed to hesitate to come near. The black fur that once covered its body was now completely hidden under layers of blood that looked like they had just been spilled. The creature's powerful body was marked with deep scars that looked like old, unbroken promises etched into the stone, a testament to the battles it had fought and survived. Golden eyes scanned every face that surrounded it. Those eyes carried no fear. They carried judgment. Hundreds of warriors formed a wide circle around the creature. None of them moved. None of them even dared to whisper. They all knew the stories. Every child born in the kingdom had grown up hearing them. Every soldier had repeated them before stepping onto a battlefield. The Alpha King's beast belonged to no one except its master. After every battle, it remained covered in blood until time washed it away. Anyone foolish enough to touch those crimson stains had never lived long enough to regret the decision. Many had tried. None had survived. The blood upon the beast was not dirt. It was victory. It was memory. It was honor. No hand except fate itself had ever removed it. The soldiers waited for commands from their generals, but the generals were looking to the nobles for direction. The nobles, however, avoided eye contact, their gazes falling quietly to the ground. It was a subtle yet powerful reminder that even those in positions of authority knew when to show deference, and that fear could be a potent force, even among the powerful. A figure stood far off, shrouded in a dark cloak that hid his face. His shoulders, though strong and broad, were slumped in exhaustion, weighed down by the burden of his own fatigue rather than any foe. His boots were caked with dust, a testament to his long and arduous journey. And on his hands, the remnants of a fierce battle still lingered, dried blood that told a story of strife and struggle. The scar across his face had once frightened entire kingdoms. Now people barely recognized the man who carried it. Once they had called him the Alpha King. Now they spoke his name only in whispers. The Alpha King stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the beast as it suffered. Each wound that marred its body felt like a fresh cut to his own heart, a painful reminder of his deep connection to the creature. He remembered another battlefield, another victory. Another kingdom that had cheered as he rode home beside the same beast. Children had reached toward them with smiling faces. Women had scattered flowers beneath their feet. Old warriors had lowered their heads in respect. Those days felt older than mountains. Everything had changed. Not because enemies defeated him, but because friends betrayed him. The most powerful defenses aren't breached by external forces, but rather they crumble when the foundation within starts to weaken and fracture. His trusted counsel had sold secrets. His closest allies had chosen ambition over loyalty. His own generals had opened the castle gates before dawn. While enemy armies waited outside like wolves smelling wounded prey, they had stolen more than his throne. They had stolen his people's belief. That wound refused to heal. The beast suddenly lifted its head. A low growl rolled across the battlefield. Every soldier instinctively stepped backward. The sound was deep enough to shake loose ash from broken towers nearby. Nobody reached for a weapon. Weapons meant nothing against this creature. The Alpha King slowly closed his eyes. He understood that growl. It was not anger. It was loneliness. The beast had fought beside him through every war. It had protected him before protecting itself. Now both of them stood abandoned. A fallen king. A forgotten guardian. Neither belonged anywhere anymore. The air was crisp and cool as a gentle breeze blew across the open field, bringing with it the sweet smell of rain that was yet to come. Above, the sky grew dark and foreboding, with clouds that seemed to watch and wait in silence. A young soldier finally gathered his courage and spoke up. "No one can leave it like this." An older commander replied, his gaze still fixed on the creature in front of him. "Then you go first." The young soldier suddenly fell silent, his bravery vanishing as fast as it had appeared, leaving him with nothing to say. Silence returned. Long, heavy, uncomfortable silence. Then something unexpected happened. Right at the edge of the battlefield, a figure emerged from the crowd. Not a knight. Not a commander. Not a noble. She was just a simple servant girl, wearing ordinary clothes that were stained and dirty from dust and smoke. She had a wooden bucket in one hand and a folded cloth was draped over her arm. Nothing about her appearance suggested courage. Nothing suggested importance. She seemed like a person who had been overlooked by the world, until the moment her name was spoken. The nearest soldier stared at her in disbelief. He stretched out his hand, his fingers brushing close to her shoulder, but then hesitated, pulling back without making contact. "Where are you going?" She looked at the beast. Not at the soldiers. Not at the nobles. The solitary figure stood alone under the dull gray sky. "It looks tired," she answered softly. Several men laughed. The sound was cold, cruel, empty, and tired. One noble shook his head. "That monster has killed men twice your size." Another soldier spoke with genuine fear. "Turn around before it notices you." She did not argue. She did not defend herself. She simply continued walking. Step after quiet step. The bucket swayed gently beside her. The water reflected the dark sky above. The Alpha King opened his eyes. For the first time since the fight was over, something broke through the heavy feeling that had been crushing his heart. Confusion. Why would anyone walk toward certain death without hesitation? The servant finally arrived at the edge of the large circle. The beast watched her. Its golden eyes narrowed. Its ears lifted. The battlefield held its breath. Every warrior expected blood to spill within moments. No one dared blink. The Alpha King took one slow step forward. A voice inside him was saying that what happened next would be really important and would change things forever. He did not know whether they would bring another tragedy, or the first amazing thing that had happened to him since he lost his kingdom. The servant girl never slowed her pace. She just kept on walking towards the beast, like fear didn't even exist. And the beast did not move. Not yet. Time stood still as the sound of every heartbeat ceased, frozen in a moment of eerie silence that hung over the battlefield like a thick fog. She stepped into a place where no one else had dared to go, a spot that was off limits to everyone, and yet, somehow, she made it out alive. She was getting closer and closer to the beast, the space between them shrinking with each step she took. The water in her bucket swayed softly to the rhythm of her movements, while the cloth lay still against her arm. She showed no sign of panic. No trembling hands. No hurried breathing. Only calm. The creature dropped its huge head a little, but kept its fiery eyes locked on her. Those eyes had witnessed countless wars. They had seen empires come and go, destroyed by war and violence. They had gazed into the faces of brave fighters and ruthless rulers. Every one of them had looked away first. The servant did not. She gazed at the creature with a deep sense of compassion, as if she saw beyond its fearsome appearance to the hurt and vulnerability that lay beneath, rather than just a terrifying monster. Around her, the soldiers slowly backed away. An elderly fighter quietly said that she had already passed away. He closed his eyes, unable to bear the thought of what was about to happen. The anticipation was just too much. The air was still, as if even the gentlest breeze was hesitant to break the quiet. The king stood still, hidden in the shadows of his dark cloak. His hand rested near the sword at his side, but he knew it wouldn't make a difference. If that creature were to attack, nothing on the battlefield would be able to stand in its way. Not even him. The creature towered over any ordinary horse, its massive frame looming large. Each breath it took was slow and deliberate, like it was savoring the air. As it exhaled, warm mist puffed out of its nostrils, creating an eerie fog that swirled around its head. Meanwhile, droplets of fresh blood continued to trickle down from its thick, matted fur, falling onto the shattered earth beneath its feet, like a grim reminder of its raw power. The servant gazed at the wounds, and instead of feeling scared, he felt a deep sense of sadness. She barely made a sound, but the beast's ears picked up every word. "You have carried enough today." The creature remained perfectly still. The Alpha King frowned. Nothing had ever been able to tame the beast, no matter how powerful the command or how authoritative the royal decree. It just wouldn't listen. Its heart remained untouched and unresponsive. Yet those simple words settled over the battlefield like gentle rain. The servant gently set the wooden bucket down on the ground. Then, she carefully unfolded the cloth, her hands moving slowly and deliberately. The creature could react to every move because it was made slowly. Nothing was forced. Nothing demanded. She simply waited. The beast watched her. Its great chest rose. Then slowly fell again. Several soldiers exchanged confused looks. Someone whispered that the creature might be getting ready to attack. Another quietly prayed. The Alpha King could not look away. Something about this moment felt older than memory itself, as though the world had been waiting for it. The servant bent beside the bucket. She dipped the cloth into the cool water. As she carefully lifted the white fabric, it had darkened slightly underneath, revealing a subtle change that had taken place just beneath the surface. Tiny drops slipped back into the bucket. The sound echoed through the silence. One drop. Then another. The beast took one enormous step forward. Gasps spread across the battlefield. A few fighters automatically went for their guns, but then they quickly realized how silly that was. The servant remained where she was. She never stepped back. She never looked for escape. Instead, she slowly raised her hand. The damp cloth lay still in the palm of her hand. The beast lowered its massive head. Not suddenly. Not in surrender. Almost with curiosity. Its golden eyes never left hers. The Alpha King's breath stuck in his throat, his chest frozen in a moment of shock. He still recalled the day they first met, a long time ago, when he encountered the beast for the very first time. It still wouldn't accept help, even when people tried to reach out to it. It wasn't until months of waiting that it finally accepted him. Now this servant had earned something impossible within minutes. His mind searched for reason. None came. The servant took one careful step closer. Only one. She was near enough to make out each scar that marked the creature's face. Near enough to hear the steady sound of its breath. Close enough to touch it. Still she waited, as though asking permission without speaking. The beast closed its eyes. The movement was almost invisible. Yet everyone saw it. No one spoke. No one dared. The servant slowly lifted the damp cloth. Her hand reached out to touch the thick blood that covered the creature's shoulder. Every soldier expected the beast to explode with fury. The Alpha King's muscles tightened. He grasped the hilt of his sword tightly in his hand. The cloth finally touched the blood-stained fur. Nothing happened. The battlefield remained silent. The servant carefully wiped off a small streak of dried blood. Another slow movement followed. Then another. The beast never growled. It never flinched. It just stayed there, completely still, as she took care of it. A single tear rolled down the face of an old soldier who had served the Alpha King for decades. He spoke softly, saying things that nobody expected to hear. The beast has accepted her. The words quickly passed from person to person, but nobody actually said them out loud again. Faces filled with disbelief. Fear slowly changed into something else. Wonder. The Alpha King emerged from the darkness, his presence revealed as he stepped out from beneath the shadow of his cloak. For the first time, every eye turned toward him instead of the beast. His expression held no anger. Only quiet shock. Something deep down inside of him, a feeling that had been hidden for a long time, started to stir. Hope. A feeling he had refused to trust since the day his kingdom fell. The servant kept cleaning the animal, moving slowly and carefully. Each stain disappeared beneath the cloth. Every time it was touched, the huge creature seemed to feel a weight lift off its shoulders. Then something even stranger happened. The creature slowly tilted its massive body towards her. Not as a predator. As a guardian choosing whom to trust. The soldiers stared in complete silence. The nobles felt fear settle inside their hearts. In the distance, a lone figure, hidden in a cloak, slowly disappeared into the crowd of onlookers, leaving the chaos of the battlefield behind. He swung onto his horse and didn't look back. His destination was the capital. The guys who took the Alpha King's throne needed to know what went down today. Because if the impossible had truly begun on this battlefield, their winning streak could be nearing its end already. The news arrived in the capital before nightfall, just as the sun was dipping behind the mountains. A rider pushed his exhausted horse through the palace gates without slowing for the guards. Dust covered his face. His breathing came in sharp bursts. Every beat of the king's heart felt like a burden, as if the entire kingdom's impossible dreams rested on his shoulders. In the grand hall of the palace, a group of men who had seized control of the kingdom from the Alpha King sat around a large, dark stone table. They had spent months celebrating their victory. People thought the king who had lost his power was now just a distant memory, someone who was slowly being forgotten. His loyal followers had scattered. His banners had vanished from the land. He was no longer a hero, but a cautionary tale. The rider dropped to one knee. His voice shook. The beast accepted another hand. Silence swallowed the room. One noble laughed. Another slowly shook his head. The oldest among them did not smile. He had been around long enough to know that some stories were better left untold, and the thought of them actually happening was a frightening one. He got up from his seat and made his way to the window of the palace. Outside, thousands of citizens moved through the streets without knowing that the balance of the kingdom had already begun to change. He spoke without turning around. Tell me everything. The writer described the battlefield exactly as he had seen it. The servant girl. The bucket of water. The beast lowering its head. The blood disappearing beneath her hands. Every word made the room colder. No one interrupted. No one questioned him. Because they all knew the legends. The beast did not choose with emotion. It made a decision based on a feeling that was older than any kingdom that had ever existed. If the servant had been accepted, it's possible that a deep-seated feeling or intuition would have been stirred, something that was previously hidden or unacknowledged. Something they had failed to destroy. The Alpha King stood watch, staying close to the beast as night began to fall over the battlefield, the palace a distant memory. As the sun dipped below the horizon, its final rays vanished behind the crumbling towers, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape, with shadows softly creeping in to claim the night. The servant finally wiped away the last bits of blood from the creature's dense, furry coat. For the first time in many years, the beast stood completely clean after battle. Its dark coat reflected the fading light. The scars were still there, but they no longer seemed like open wounds, instead they appeared as a testament to the fact that she had made it through, a reminder of what she had endured and overcome. The servant stepped back. She lowered her eyes. I am finished. The beast slowly opened its eyes. It studied her face for a long moment. It did something that no one alive had ever seen before. It slowly brought its huge head down, gently laying it to rest beside her shoulder. Not in weakness. In trust. The Alpha King felt something break inside his chest. Not pain. The wall he had built around his heart after losing everything. His closest commander stepped beside him. His voice remained almost a whisper. My king. It had been a long time, many months in fact, since the title was last mentioned out loud. The Alpha King looked toward the old warrior. There was no crown upon his head. No throne behind him. But as he heard those words, memories he thought were long forgotten began to resurface, and they wouldn't stay hidden anymore. The commander lowered his gaze. Forgive me. Old habits remain. The Alpha King answered quietly. Do not ask forgiveness for speaking the truth. Your heart still believes. The old warrior's face finally cracked a smile, the first one he'd had since their kingdom fell. Hope spread silently among the surviving soldiers. No speeches were needed. No promises were made. People simply watched the impossible standing before them. The servant carefully gathered her cloth and empty bucket. She got ready to go, acting like everything was normal. The Alpha King stepped forward. She immediately bowed her head. He looked at her for several silent moments. There was no fear in her eyes.